February 9th, 2026. I call this meeting of the Bedford Select Board to order. The roll call vote, Mr. Parker.
Here.
Mr. Hannigan.
Here.
And I am here. The first item on the agenda is public comment. If you have public comment, please come forward. You have 3 minutes, and please state your name and address, and Mr. Parker will keep time this evening.
Can we have captions on, please?
Captions on, please. We may.
Into the mic, I presume?
Yes, please.
All right. Hello. Hello? This doesn't seem to be, you hear me?
Got you.
Okay, perfect. Hello, my name is Brandon Hall of 7 Sheridan Road. I'm speaking tonight to offer observations on the proposed language for Section 51B of the Charter Amendment, specifically regarding the library. My goal is to just ensure the text is clear and preserves the accountability voters expect. First, regarding the drafting itself, the sentence that reads the appointment of department heads is subject to the approval of the Select Board currently stands entirely on its own. As written, this could legally be interpreted to grant the Select Board veto power over all department heads, including those appointed by independent boards, like the library trustees. I suggest a small but critical change. We could add the word such, so it reads the appointment of such department heads, and this clearly links the requirement back to the town manager's appointees only. Second, the text attempts to split authority between the administrative supervision for the town manager and policy direction for elected boards. But the intent remains vague, without administrative supervision clearly defined. How are we supposed to interpret who is responsible for what? My worry is that the ambiguity will lead to loose interpretations, future amendment requirements, or conflict when administrative and policy directions inevitably clash. And it is my belief that they will. Finally, I'd ask you to consider the unique nature of the library. Unlike regulatory bodies, the library is a civic institution that provides a direct service to residents as patrons. Because it is a service provider, direct accountability is vital. Right now, if the library's services decline, voters know exactly who to hold responsible. It is the trustees. They can vote them out, and the only outcome is changes to the library. If we dilute that authority by shifting supervision to the town manager, library performance. Every Bedford citizen that I've spoken to, and there have been many, believes the motion to leave the library independently approved should stand. However, even as written, the article lacks clarity in a significant way that I believe warrants a serious review. Thank you for your time and for all of your work on this.
Thank you. Anybody in the waiting room, Autumn? Anybody else in the room, please?
David Williams, 17 School Ave. I'm also here about the library amendment. I strongly support the recommendation of the bylaw committee to include the change that specifically excludes the library director from the town manager's supervision in the charter amendment listed in Article 25. I also ask that the Select Board recommend passage of this amendment. I believe it's particularly important for Bedford to be a positive example of trusting their elected board's oversight, particularly for the Bedford Free Public Library. That's it. Thank you.
Seeing no further comments, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing for Sam Walker's American Tavern. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Nope, I'm racing ahead. Next item on the agenda is the MSBA Design Funding warrant article about Shawsheen. My apologies, everybody.
We have Superintendent Tony McIntosh here. Welcome.
Another chair for 2 school committee members?
That should be fine.
You go.
Say next slide whenever you're ready. Autumn will take care of you.
Thank you, Autumn. Good evening, and thank you for having us here. My name's Tony McIntosh. I'm the superintendent at Shawsheen Valley Technical High School. I'm joined by Sarah Dora and Brian O'Donnell, who are the 2 Bedford representatives to the Shawsheen School Committee. We did share With the select board, a little one-pager that we put together. I'm going to just start with a couple of the highlights from that, and then I'll jump into the presentation. Just to give some people some background, our building was originally designed for about 1,000 students. We currently sit at about 1,300. Again, the building was built in 1970. There's never been a major renovation or update of the whole facility, so we're going on about 55 years now in that facility. And what we're seeing is every year the cost of upkeep goes up to keep up with the mechanical systems, to keep up with the maintenance of the facility. It keeps increasing. So we're here tonight to talk a little bit about the MSBA. The first phase of that is what's called a feasibility study. So we have gone out and we're asking for a warrant article in each one of our 5 communities. Bedfordshire would not exceed $61,427. And I say would not exceed because we are still working behind the scenes to try to pull together either all of that funding or a portion of that funding through the school's finances. But again, we won't have some of those answers until close to the deadline for us to file for warrant articles. So we're trying to hedge our bets, if you will, and make sure that we have our bases covered regardless of how that funding plays out. So again, Autumn, next slide, please. Just a quick overview of the MSBA, and this is information that we pulled directly from their website. So you can see we are currently in what's called the eligibility period. So by May 28th of this year, we have to secure funding to pay for what's called a feasibility study. It's just under $1.5 million. It's actually $1,498,587.
Just under 1.5.
Just under.
Just barely.
Yeah. So again, once that funding has been voted on and we've appropriated the funds, we'll move into a kind of a collaborative piece with MSBA where we would hire an owner's project manager and a design team, and they would be the ones that would then kind of take over, go through the feasibility study. They'll look at all the current conditions. They'll look at all of the current mechanical systems. And my understanding is they typically come back with 3 or 4 renovation options, 3 or 4 renovation expansion options, and then usually 3 or 4 options for a new facility, which would lead us right down to that bottom row where it says funding the project. So probably about 2 years from now, again, if this whole thing plays out and we work our way through the system and MSBA approves us as we go, we will be coming out to our sending communities to ask for funding for whatever that project looked like, whether it was a renovation, whether it was a renovation expansion, whether it was a new building. And then from there, obviously, it follows a timeline through detailed design, construction, and then we would eventually move into the building and take it over once all of that stuff was completed. Next slide, please. So in this eligibility period, they've asked us to do a number of things. We have formed a building committee. We have done an analysis of all of our educational programs on the academic side, all of the coursework that we offer, looked at what spaces we currently occupy, what we envision we're going to need in the future. We do the same thing for all of our Chapter 74 vocational programs. We did a whole piece on our maintenance and capital upkeep for the facility in the district. So we've been working since late summer, early last fall to get all of that stuff in. At this time, all of that documentation has been submitted. The only thing that's outstanding at this point in time is those local authorization votes or the committee's authorization vote, depending on how we fund this. And once that has been finalized, it goes back to MSBA. Their board has to vote to move us on to the next phase, which is, again, the project team. And as I said, we as a school will work with MSBA. They have some pretty rigid requirements about who qualifies to be an owner's project manual on a project of this size and scope. Same thing as far as the design team goes. So we would work with MSBA. Their list of approved isn't really the right word, but kind of their endorsed pool of candidates for both of those. And then again, coming out of that, both of those teams would be tasked with looking at the current facility, making projections for where we would be with enrollment, and then what would this project look like as we move forward. Next slide, please. So again, all of that stuff has to go back to MSBA. They actually have a panel that reviews and approves these things. So this is not something that Shawsheen would do in isolation. This is definitely kind of a tandem process where we would move through this following MSBA's lead. Next slide, please. And then again, the feasibility study, they would look at all the documents that we've already produced. Typically, from what I've heard from other schools, they come back, they ask some additional questions, they have some follow-up for us to do. And then they use that, and I'll read from the slide, to determine the most cost-effective and educationally appropriate solution. And at that point, again, it does go back to the MSBA's Board of Directors for them to consider the project and decide if they're going to move it to the next step. So, I'm sorry. As part of this feasibility study, they look at our educational programs. Like I said, that's academic and vocational. They look at a space summary. So we have an auditorium at this point in time that'll hold 125 kids. Our smallest class is 300. So it really doesn't work well. We currently start lunch at about 10:40 in the morning and run till 10 past 1 in the afternoon to get all the kids fed and through the cafeteria every day. So as we look at some of those spaces, I'm sure that's going to be part of this conversation. Again, they'll document those existing conditions. They'll look at the design parameters. They'll talk about the different options. Like I said, is it a renovation? Is it a renovation expansion? Is it a new facility? And then they'll make the recommendation back to us and our sending communities. Next slide, please. In schematic design, again, they'll take all that information, they'll pull all of that together. The design team, is really most of the time it's an architectural firm, so they'll look at the different options. Is it a single-story building? Is it a multi-story building? Is it an addition to our current facility? And they will come back. They will work with the building committee that we've put together, and they will come back multiple times and have different conversations with us as they work through the process to make sure that this building encompasses the things that we see as a need for the different programs that we run. And then funding. This is a long way down the road, but I know this is a hot topic because everybody has financial burdens and other things that they're looking at. And like I said, this is probably about 2 years out at this point in time. My understanding from the people that I've talked to that have done similar projects at other vocational schools, this ends up being a district-wide vote, which is an approval of the project and also a debt exclusion at the same time. So on a designated day in all 5 of our sending communities, there would be a district-wide vote to either approve or disapprove of the project. And again, at any point in time here, if we don't get the funding, we don't get the approval, MSBA doesn't move us to the next step. Next slide. Funding's been, for argument's sake, funding's been finalized. And then the architectural firm will then come back and do all of the plumbing, electrical, HVAC, structural drawings, site work drawings. So the initial is more of a concept or a proposal, and then again, once funding is secured, and again, as we go through this process, MSBA does review all of this stuff. They do provide model documents and model contracts and all of those things throughout the process. So this is not something that we wouldn't be blazing our own trail here. We would be following some well-established protocols that MSBA has developed. Next slide, please. And then the fun part, construction. Again, this is something, we're many years out at this point in time. There's 2 different options. You can do guaranteed maximum price. You can do builder at risk. There's a couple of different ways to go about this. And again, those things would have to be decided upon based on who the project, the owner's project owner's project manager was and who the architectural firm was at the time. Next slide, please. And then last of all, completing the project. So this is a long ways off, but from what I've gathered from talking to other superintendents that have been through this process, as this slide says, you get to the 95% completion. MSBA kind of puts the brakes on and says, we want to make sure that everything's done. We want to make sure that all your plumbing fixtures work, all your lights come on, all your mechanical systems are good, and then they will, as all of that stuff has been audited and signed off on, they will move to the last phase where they'll make the final payments. And I believe, and then the last thing that they do on any project that MSBA funds, they do a follow-up survey. And again, this is more to inform their process of moving forward and in similar building projects in years to come. I personally have never been through this. I've never seen one. I haven't tracked down anybody yet that's been through this piece, but there are, I think, 3 or 4 vocational schools that superintendents are set to move into in the next year or 2. So if we do move forward with this process, by the time we get to here, we'll have some peer models that we can follow. And that's the end of the presentation.
Great. Ms. Dorr, Mr. Brian, anything to add to the conversation before you ask questions?
So I would just add that each community has residents from the community who are represented on the building committee, and we've appointed Nina Tate from Bedford. She has a lot of experience with building projects. She's currently on the Fire Station 1, I know at the moment. And she is actually a parent of a Shawsheen student, sophomore, and very enthusiastic. You know, we thought it was going to be hard to find somebody, and she was very excited to do this.
Wonderful.
So that's what I would add. I'd also invite any one of you to come over to the school if you've never been there.
Absolutely.
Really.
More on that later. Brian?
It's a particularly exciting time to be coming to Bedford to talk about this project, since we have recently hit decades high levels of applicants. I think we're at over 50 applicants.
53 for the class of 20.
That's a
this
Never.
year, which
Wow.
Never before.
way beyond. And we, as Sarah said, we urge people to come over. I know some of you already have been over. It's a very deceptive school. It's beautifully maintained, looks great, but every time you go behind a wall, there is a 50 to 60-year-old problem waiting to happen, as the superintendent and our facilities director worry about pretty much on a weekly basis, with heat outages and things of that sort. So we welcome people to come on over, and obviously more Bedford parents and students have been doing that lately, and it's great.
Great. Mr. Hangan, any questions?
Well, first of all, thank you to all 3 of you for what you do, and you actually answered a lot of my questions in the presentation, but there are a couple of them that I didn't hear. So I know this would be kind of a rough estimate, but if this passes and you do have the construction, do you know about how much the debt exclusion may be that we're asking for Bedford?
So Bedford currently pays 10% of capital costs. Again, that may increase a little bit depending if we continue to see these increases in the enrollment trend, that could tick up a little bit. There are currently about 3 projects that are going on that are about the same scope when you look at number of students and technical programs. They range anywhere from about $285 million to about $325 million. Now, we're probably 5 or 6 years out on this, so realistically, I think
Less expensive, definitely.
you're probably in the, I'm going to be conservative, but you're probably in the $375 to $400 million price range, all said and done. If this is 5 or 6 years from now, I doubt that anything's going to come down significantly.
Okay, thank you. And then other questions. So I know there's some feasibility work needed to determine like rebuild versus update. Would any potential rebuilding still be done on that site, or would there be consideration to another site?
Everything we've talked about is staying on that current site, and I think we have the flexibility. If it's a renovation, if it's a renovation expansion, obviously, that's going to use a lot of our current footprint. But I'm pretty confident we have space a little further up the property where we could put a new building if that was the direction we needed to go in.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set.
Mr. Barker?
I'd like to echo what Sean said. Thank you all for coming forward. Just want to be clear that if funding is not approved, that the school could lose its eligibility for state funding.
Yep.
And could you talk a little bit about that, what that would mean?
We submitted, I want to say, at least 4 or 5 statements of interest.
I think we got it on our third or fourth application.
Okay.
So
It's no guarantee. Typically, they receive somewhere between 70 and 90 statements of interest a year, and they usually fund somewhere between 15 and 20 projects. So just getting over that initial hurdle was significant. From what I've been told, people that don't necessarily have the feasibility study funding, you have to go back and start over again. So again, we would have already missed this year's cycle, so the earliest we could put in another request would be 2027. And again, based on past history, it may be 2 years, it may be 5 years. And again, talking about projects like this, as has already been alluded to, the year that goes by, the price of that project keeps increasing, so.
Gotcha.
And we are trying to do our due diligence here. We are looking currently at, is there anything we can squeeze out of our FY26 operating budget? We are trying our hardest to get our E&D certified to see if there's actually some flexibility there. So again, when we came forward, we did the not to exceed piece to give us that range. If we can fund this thing ourselves, we will. I think that might be a little too optimistic, but that's our goal. But then we can also come back somewhere in between and say, we found half the money, and this is what the assessments to each community would look like.
Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. In my day, the field trip to Shawshing is always worth it. If you haven't been there, despite the facilities showing its age, it's a wonderful way to spend a morning and get lunch in the restaurant and see all the shops. This has been in the news. My question is, does a particular fruit salad of shops make it more expensive? Does your combination of offerings make it more expensive to renovate than if you lost one of those and did something else? That's a rumor, right? Well, because you have this, if you didn't do it in the future, you could save some money on the rebuild or the renovation.
You'd probably have to eliminate about half the trade programs to really save money there, and you're talking automotive, you're talking carpentry, electrical, plumbing, which is typically.
I don't want to do that, to be clear.
Those are really our draw for a lot of our students come in for those particular career areas. I mean, it is much more expensive to build than a traditional high school would be. And if we only had, programming and web and graphic arts and design and visual and some of those other things, yes, those programs are a little bit less expensive. But as part of this, there's also an allowance for FF&E, which is finished furnishing and equipment.
Yep.
So there is some money from the state that will come back to help offset some of those costs as part of this project.
Right. And people aren't able to say, well, Minuteman cost $150 million. Why does this cost? But that was also like 9 years ago. And it's a different arrangements, different land, everything is different. This is going to be expensive. You can't anticipate the reimbursement. It could be 30%, it could be more. So I think the best we can do is say, go along the pathway. We will certainly support the funding, I will, and we'll see what happens. Good luck. There's no guarantee of success with the application submission. But good luck.
If I may, Minuteman became a smaller school, serving fewer students as part of that process. Right now, we have the wonderful, but sometimes challenging fact that we have more students applying than we can accommodate. So we're hoping to still be able to accommodate somewhere in the 13 to 100 plus students and not have to go for a smaller school. But that's part of what working with MSBA is.
And don't tear up those beautiful new fields, because those are brand new and gorgeous. So go in the other direction.
That's our plan.
All right. Was someone saying something? All right. Do we need?
No motion.
No motion?
No.
Well, just appreciation. So thanks for coming. That was great.
Thank you for having us.
You're always welcome in this chamber. All right.
Thank you very much.
You could leave it.
Now we are on to the public hearing for Sam Walker's American Tavern. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Mr. Henning has moved.
Second.
Parker second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are in the open hearing 3-0. Bope is still not here. Is that correct?
That is
Just
correct.
making sure so we can just keep on going. Welcome. Hello.
Hello. Sure she's not in attendance?
Yeah.
Oh, you're in attendees, open up.
Yep. All right. The floor is yours.
How you doing?
Good.
My name is Pat Dillon. It's my business partner, Sean Ahern. We do have one other business partner, Julian Bolger, who's not here. He was actually at the Super Bowl, but he had a disappointing day.
Unfortunately.
I'm glad he's coming home sad, not happy.
So
The business is doing well.
It is, yes, yes. So we own and operate 7 restaurants throughout city of Boston, Woburn. We just opened one in Swampscott. Our operating company is called Maverick Hospitality. I'm the CEO of Maverick Hospitality. Sean is the Chief Operating Officer. We've been very hands-on with all of our restaurants since we opened and intend on continuing to do so. So our first one is called Lucy's American Tavern in Dorchester, which we opened in 2016. Then we opened one called the Bowery Bar in 2018. Then we opened, we took over Cityside We actually don't own it, but we do operate it for our other business partner in Brighton, right next to Boston College. We also have one called Layla's American Tavern in South Boston, and we have Sam Walker's in Woburn, and Chubb's Taco and Tequila Bar in Dorchester, and then finally Sam Walker's in Swampscott we just opened. So we're here hoping to do another Sam Walker's American Tavern in Bedford, which is a site that we've been looking at for close to 2 years now. And we're really excited about it, so that's what we're here to do.
All right. Anything you want to add, sir?
Yeah, thank you. Sean Ahern. So, myself and my business partners, we own and operate. So we are in the restaurants all the time. We're very independent, locally owned. I myself been in hospitality for 30 plus years. I started as a bartender back in the late 90s into the early 2000s, and I worked for the last 20 years on this side of things. Started as a manager in my first exploration into that side. And I did operations, equity partner, and then we moved in and did our group back in 2016. So, we're really excited for the opportunity to hopefully come to Bedford and hopefully some of you have heard of our brands or maybe spent time at Sam Walker's in Woburn, which is in fairly close proximity. But we're just excited for the opportunity to come into the community, kind of show who we are. We're big on community values, our team, team culture, and we're just excited to be here and have the opportunity to talk to you all.
Mr. Chancellor from the town, anything you want to clarify? We have the materials in our Dropbox.
No, I think we're mostly set from the town side. They've had their review from most departments. It's an existing establishment, which helps.
So it's taking the place of what spot is it going into?
Bamboo.
Thank you.
Yeah. If there are any changes to the floor plan, that may require some, review in the future. But I think as of right now, from the liquor license perspective and an entertainment license perspective, we're ready, barring any, public comments tonight that you hear. From the town's perspective, we're in good shape.
Okay, well, we will toss to the public first. This is a public hearing. If anyone's in the room that wants to ask any questions or got clarifications, please step forward, or on the Zoom, please raise your hand. Well, we will keep it open just in case. And Mr. Hannon, do you have any questions?
Well, thank you for coming. I'm also excited to have your place in Bedford.
Thank you.
I was wondering, I did see and appreciate some of the things you got involved with in the community for Woburn. Is there anything in particular, I know you're new to Bedford, but you'd be looking at getting involved in from a community perspective?
Off the top of our heads, no. But once we start moving forward, we usually we have a small marketing team that also works kind of PR and community involvement for us. We're hoping that once we can move forward, that you guys can put us in touch with some people from the community who can tell us what's important to Bedford. Like, I know I'm from Woburn, so I was really excited to open a restaurant there. I knew Flag Day was a big thing for them, and it got canceled during COVID. So we were able to help bring that back to our support. But as Sean said, community involvement is very important to us. We want to make sure that we're heavily involved with the communities we're working in, and we're giving back as much as we're getting. So yeah, we would definitely explore that as we get closer to construction for the project and all that.
And to date, we started, we opened Lucy's 2016 in Dorchester, and from that time until now, through our locations, and some of we do like a cocktail for a cause where we partner with local, very usually hyper-local charities and do a $2 kickback for every cocktail that we sell. But as Pat mentioned, Flag Day was one of our biggest undertakings that we did. We resurrected Flag Day with the
Kiwanis Club.
Thank you. Kiwanis Club from Woburn, and we're on our third year of that, and that was really a great undertaking for us. So to date, I think we're about over 100,000 in community donations between our 7 locations, and that's something that we're going to continue to grow in each community that we're involved in.
We also tend to be heavily involved in communities with the youth sports programs, sponsoring Swampscott, Little League, Woburn Youth Hockey, anything we can to do to help, especially with the people who like regular restaurants, which tend to be families. We get a lot of families coming in after, sporting events and stuff like that. So that's where we try to aim our focus with our, our marketing and charitable donation dollars back to those type of things.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Parker.
Thank you for considering our town to come to. In my private life, I've been to Lucy's in Dorchester, and I've also been to Sam Walker's in Woburn. Is there any reason why there's a different name change? Is there a certain concept that you work with Sam Walker's?
Yes, so Lucy's American Tavern was named after Lucy Stone from Dorchester, who was a women's rights activist and a suffragist, the first woman to get a college degree, right, in the state?
Massachusetts,
Yeah.
the 1800s. So when we went into Dorchester, we wanted to do something that was driven to that community, so that's where we pulled. She was from West Brookfield, Mass, but she was spent most of her life in Dorchester, so we grabbed Lucy Stone was her name, so we took Lucy's American Tavern, and when we were going to Woburn, we had the idea we were going to do the same concept, but at that time we thought we wanted to kind of keep it particular to Woburn and make it more just kind of community feel. Same menu, same concept. So Pat is, like I said, born and raised in Woburn. We did some historical exploration there, and we came up with Captain Samuel Walker from England originally, lived in New Hampshire, and then spent most of his life in Woburn. He was the first innkeeper and tavern license holder in Woburn in 1675. So we grabbed that name and did Sam Walker's American Tavern. And from there, just I think with coming out of Boston, because we have 5 locations in the city and our first kind of outside that market, we really loved, being up in the suburban market. There's actually parking, and which we don't have at any in Boston. So we decided because of I think we really kind of the name really hit up in this side of Boston. So we decided to carry that name forward, and that's going to be the brand that we're taking forward for future expansion.
Okay.
It was always important to us to try to remain independent in all the restaurants, but at a certain point, obviously with anything else, with the success that Sam Walker's had in Woburn and the name recognition that we kind of got from that, it became a tough decision, whereas okay, we're going to move into a new community. People know the name at this point, so we continue using different names. You have to kind of start all over, so we made the tough decision to say we're going to stick with that brand since it's got some recognition at this point. Yeah.
All right, just one other quick question. Last time I was in Sam Walker's in Woburn, it sort of struck me as a sports bar. Is that the theme that you're going for, or no?
Yes, that's part of the theme, definitely. We want it to be a place for people to come in, and Sunday football is a huge thing for us. The weekends, Saturday, college football, any big sporting event, we do get a crowd for, yes. But really, it's made to be a family restaurant first. We put a lot of effort and thought into our culinary programs. It's very important for us to keep our food and beverage split as close as we can to 50-50. And to make sure that it's a very inviting and comfortable space for families just as much as it is for people coming in watching games.
I'd say throughout all of our locations, it's very much the same. Where you see, we like to say we're a great restaurant. That's a good place to watch sports, and we don't market ourselves directly as a sports bar at all. We're open for lunch. We do dinner. We do brunch on the weekends. So we're a full service. As Pat said, we'll have families in there. We'll have some younger couples with families, or But I think we're very diverse. I think in our guest base.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, I have one very important question for Sean. In 2004, you won Boston's Best Bartender.
I did.
Tell us about that for a second.
I was started bartending in 1997. I worked for TGI Fridays for a lot of years. I learned how to flip bottles, do all that flair stuff that you saw on Cocktail with Tom Cruise. I did that, and then
it was based on your life.
It was based loosely. And then
retroactively. Yeah.
And then I was in the South End working at a spot in this Union Bar and Grill for the Aquitaine Group. For about 2 years, I was lead bartender at that time. And somehow I was nominated, and they came in and they kind of did like a spot check on me, and I didn't know they were there. And next week, I got a call that I was Boston's Best Bartender, a full-page picture of me in Boston Magazine. It was very surreal. It was fun. My mother has it still hanging.
You bet she does.
She has it hanging in her living room.
On a more serious note, I note in the entertainment application it says the hours are 11:30 to 12:30 a.m. And 10 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. That strikes me as exceptionally late for Bedford closing time. Am I wrong in thinking that, Mr. Hanson?
My brief understanding is that that time is allowed in Bedford, but I do think traditionally we don't have many that are open that late. But
I'm just wondering, are we approving that 12:30 closure time, which feels like a different kind of discussion than I'm used to, right?
And I guess a question for the applicant.
Yeah.
Some applicants, and as a general rule, are encouraged to request the hours that they may need at all times. Some restaurants have slightly later hours. So for special events or certain times of the year, maybe even in the summer, they can change their hours. Is your intent that that is going to be your actual hours all year round?
If possible, yes. Our goal would be, obviously where this location sits was a big part of why we wanted it so bad. We thought it was a great location right off the highway. It also sits right next to Billerica, which is a market that we've been looking at extensively for a while. We've been looking at Billerica, Chelmsford, Bedford, all those areas. And obviously we're competing with Burlington a little bit, so it's kind of the thought process there is, it's not about, for us, it's not about trying to have a big crowd in at midnight. It's about not losing your crowd at 10 o'clock to go to places that are open later down the street. That's kind of the thought process. So yes, that is the intention, but also we asked knowing that it was a bit of a stretch for Bedford. So, I mean.
And we usually, our kitchens will stay open until anywhere between 10 and 11, depending on the night. So we're full service, and the idea is that if someone comes in to dine on Friday or Saturday and they get there at 10 or 11, that we can still serve them some drinks while they're dining. Because we do get, like in our locations, particularly in Woburn, we get late diners that do come in, so that's kind of the reason for that. But
Yeah, it doesn't trouble me. When Yard House is open, people go to Yard House at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
This is in Bedford, and that would give us some revenue. So I do understand why we're talking about it at 12:30. I haven't seen that, but that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the board does, reserve its right, even if they approve it as is tonight. If there are problems, there's sort of two recourses. One is requiring police details late at night if there's lots of incidents or on specific nights or big events, and or potentially cutting hours back. If, given your track record, I would say it's less likely. I haven't heard of any particular issues in your other establishments, but they would reserve their right to, reduce it if they needed to in the future.
Of course, yeah. We do the best we can. We put a lot of emphasis on running, safe, responsible establishments. All of our bartenders are very careful about over-serving. We understand in the suburbs that a lot of people are driving, as in the city, a lot of them are taking Ubers and different rideshare programs. So we're very careful about everything we do. And yeah, on days we know we're going to have bigger days like Woburn, for example, it's St. Patrick's Day and it's not New Year's Eve, Thanksgiving Eve. We always have, we're very cautious. We have police details throughout the day, which we don't need to do. We choose to do just to make sure we don't have any issues. So yeah, understandable, of course, if there were ever any issues, we would expect that, but we'll do everything we can to make sure there aren't any.
Last question, if approved, when would you open?
We will be hoping to open this summer. So we have two small contingencies on our lease right now. One is depending on the hour of operations. The other is some additional space that we're trying to add to the side of the building that we're going through a process right now with in the city. But once that all gets approved, if it all gets approved, we'll start right away. And we're looking at hopefully 5 to 6 months from the beginning of construction to when we open the restaurant. So as of right now, our goal would be August.
Yeah. And our investments, anywhere from probably, this is all self-funded, or we just started going with a bank recently, but it's usually about $3 to $4 million on the build-out that we'll take on as well.
Looking around the public, any other public hearing comments or questions from the room or from the audience on Zoom? In that case, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Standing is moved. Sparker is seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. The public hearing is closed. And now, if there is a motion out there to be made, I'm willing to hear it.
I move that the board approve the all liquor, common victrola, and entertainment license applications for Sam Walker's Bedford, Inc., doing business as Sam Walker's American Tavern, located at 213 Burlington Road, as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? 3-0-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your construction.
so much.
See you in August.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the future use of Springs Brook Park. Everyone's here for this.
They've made you 3 chairs.
You
Can I steal that one?
grab whatever you need.
No.
We only have 2 microphones, so.
Sure thing.
Good thing we had.
There's room for Nikki if Nikki wants to pull a fourth one up, just saying.
Oh, here.
Sure, you don't want to do that.
All right, Mr. Smith, take it away.
Thank you. Members of the Select Board, we're here to talk about the Springbrook Park future use and master plan. With me is, we have Brandon Kunkel from Weston and Sampson, whose firm did this study and subsequent master plan, and Robin Steele, Chair of the Recreation Commission. Also joined from by other Recreation Commission members here and online. And with that, next slide, please, Autumn. Thank you. So addressing the future use of Springbrook Park has been one of the Select Board's goals. The Recreation Commission discussed various options to address the long-term use, and ultimately they chose and recommended to engage a firm to conduct a study of the park, gathering resident feedback and engaging the public on potential future use options and developing a master plan. At annual town meeting 2024, voters approved funding for this study. The design and consulting firm Weston and Sampson was hired in September of '24 to conduct this study, which happened over the course of roughly a year, from September of '24 to '25. It wrapped up this past fall. You can find this study and subsequent materials on the recreation page of the town's website or at bedfordrecreation.org directly, which takes you there as well. Next slide, please. Project team that worked on this study and master plan on the town staff side included members of Recreation Department, Town Manager's Office, Department of Public Works, Facilities. The 5 members of the Recreation Commission were very involved in this as well, and Brandon's team from Weston and Sampson, team of 5 members. They were great to work with over the course of the past year. Very involved in public forums, public feedback, and the like. Next slide, please, Autumn. The study phase started with a site analysis, which is an overview. This is a one-slide overview. It's obviously in much more detail in the reports that you can read online, and that you were provided with. 56 acres of total park space. Obviously, it's a very large swath of land. If you look at the diagram, kind of from the trees to the right, that's Springs Road. So envisioning if you were walking or driving or biking into the park, as you enter the park, currently there is a soccer field on your right side that gets used quite often for youth programming and others. Behind it, there's a baseball field that doesn't get used as much. The field space there is a bit choppy, is a bit hilly. It gets a little wet, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. And then there's 10 or so parking spots kind of on your left as you come in, 10 or so, I should say. And then there's the gate, the seasonal gate that's up, because the gate opens when the park is open during the summer, mid-June to mid-August. Further down, there's the 9/11 memorial as you go down the park, and then the amenities that are much further down that you look at include a pretty large picnic area, 24,000 square feet, and then sports court area with a basketball court, small playground, a splash pad and spray park, and then the very large spring-fed 56,000 square foot pond has 9-foot depths that we program in the summer with memberships and day passes and lifeguards and summer adventures use and a lot of programming in a very busy 8-week season that we have now. The trails are a very important part of everything in Bedford, specifically on the rec side. There's a little bit over a half-mile of trails that are accessible all year round, not only when the park is open for the summer months. And with that, Brandon, I'll turn the rest of the presentation over to you.
Great, thanks, Josh. And Select Board, very great pleasure to be here this evening. The whole process, working with Josh and his team and the committee and the commission, was fantastic, and we really did enjoy the entire process. We did, as Josh highlighted with the site analysis, we also looked at the opportunities and constraints, and we went through sort of the key areas. Again, the report is much more detailed. I just wanted to highlight a few, but sort of how we approached the opportunities and constraints of Springs Brook. We looked at the swimming hole in particular, swimming pond. It's difficult to find enough lifeguards. I know that's been an ongoing challenge for years for Josh and his team. Just given the size of the pond itself, and we'll have some additional data, but it's 11 to 13 lifeguards at one time, given the depth and the size of it, in order for them to safely monitor it. The pond itself, being a natural spring-fed pond, lacks clarity. It's very hard to see at lower depths. As Josh mentioned just on the previous slide, we looked over at the soccer field and the baseball, softball field area. And we noticed immediately the water, standing water in the field area, making it limited for use in parts of the year. We also looked at the vegetation within the park as a whole. We know there's some invasive plant work that could be done in managing it. And just ultimately we looked at just the use of the trails, how people interact with the trail system. We noticed that some of the trails were not marked clearly. And then just in general, erosion and runoff, wear and tear. So there are some opportunities to provide some higher levels of recreation throughout the park. We also looked at parking, gateways, and signage. Is it clearly marked where people should go, where they should park? Is it safe? Is it visible? We looked at circulation and access throughout the park. We noticed in particular the main access drive, it's shared between walkers as well as cars. So we believe there's some opportunities there to provide some further clarification and safety and signage in order to help minimize potential issues. Again, as I mentioned, the trails and the wayfinding, there's some initiatives and some grants that are being pursued, particularly, and I know that they were successful in getting a grant for some trail work and a boardwalk, as well as we looked at just overall park safety. Not only is it used during the day, but just what it as we can see now, it's dark at 4 in the afternoon, as well as just general emergency safety lighting as well. Once we had that information, we opened it up to the public. We had a series of public meetings. We also did an online survey to get further information back. Really the opportunities and analysis, that was our own observations and technical opinions. The public, we wanted to hear from them. We wanted to hear their feedback, what it works, what doesn't work, what's great, what could be used improvements, what is missing, and so on and so forth. Some of the data we got back, particularly through the online, you can see, I'm not going to read them all, but just highlighting the desire and use. People want more, people need more. The park is loved, that's no doubt. And the intent here was to provide more sustainable amenities, more robust, more resilient, but also increase the ability for the park to be opened longer periods of the year, better operation and maintenance in order to upkeep it, as well as just make it generally more user-friendly. So again, I'm not going to read through these. There's a lot more detail in the report itself, but you can see some of the highlights related to desired amenities that the public would like. We take all that information and we put it into a bit of a blender. I'm kidding. But we, working with Josh and his team and, the public feedback, and we came up with what you're looking at here is the final concept plan. This is a perspective view just for ease of visibility and understanding. So Springsbrook Road is all the way to the top and to the left. And then you have the golf course center page up in the top. But you can see, in general, the park itself is not really changing all that much. What you will notice, and I'd be naive not to point it out, is a new swim facility with a constructed pool system, pool amenity with a building that supports it, dedicated parking, a boardwalk and trail system. We would look to reduce or naturalize the pond and change it to a recreational, passive recreational amenity versus an active recreation swimming place. We would look to help increase or refurbish some of the wetlands throughout the park and provide additional accessible paths throughout the park. And I know Josh mentioned it, and he's going to speak to it a little bit more in just a moment, but the existing soccer fields, we would actually look to remove
the baseball field and add the new soccer field with its own dedicated parking. The existing 9/11 memorial would remain. And then we would look to add a pump track, which is, if you're not familiar, is the hot new thing for kids between the ages of 5 and all the way on up to adult. And then
What is that?
it's for, really, it's BMX, dirt bike riding.
Cool kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Jumps, all the things, berms. A universally accessible playground and splash pad. And again, just working with Josh and his team to increase accessibility throughout the park through boardwalks and trails. Next slide.
Just so you guys know, the gate to Springsburg Park would move down, so the 911 memorial would be accessible all the time. They wouldn't have to go through the gate, sorry.
Yeah. Nope, that's fine.
And with parking there,
Yeah.
probably parking actually at the 9/11
I
memorial
just want
site
people to
as part of
understand that
this,
we're
Yeah.
moving everything down.
Nope. This is a enlarged view, particularly of the pool area. You'll see the central drive as it more or less is now, where it arrives to the pool or the pond. It would now arrive to the pool. You can see it's a singular pool, but it has multi-purpose areas, swim lanes, just a general swim area, as well as younger kids swimming area. The bathhouse, which would be completely ADA accessible with security gates and safety measures. The splash pad adjacent to it, so you get some efficiencies out of your pumps and filtration rooms and just regular management. The equipment building through, completely accessible ADA throughout. Potential for a water slide. We can talk about the phasing in just a minute. With a sandbox, as there is one now. Again, additional boardwalks and trails to provide year-round activities. And then, overlooks, picnic areas, seating terraces, shared paths, and again, the ADA universal playground that is adjacent to the pool. Could be monitored, a lot easier with parents. So with that, we can jump to the plan view. This gives just the overall, and you can see the legend on the right, all the amenities. Hopefully it resonates back to the perspectives. But, with number 1 and 3 and 2, 1, 2, 3, which Josh will speak to in just a minute, with some of the early initiatives that are happening. And then, again, this is just the full program, 1 through 15 overall. And then ultimately, we did consider looking at, saving the pond as a swimming pond. And just for reference, if you go to the next slide, you can see the comparison of the pond today. 55,400 square feet of actual swim area, total water volume approximately 1.6 million gallons, versus the pool, which is overlaid on the right, which would be 4 6.5-foot deep swimming lanes with a slide landing zone, open swim zone, a beach entry area. Much less in regards to size and square footage and operating costs. 27,000 square feet, only needing 5 to 6 lifeguards, whereas the pond needs approximately 13 to 15 on any given day. The total swim areas are quite different, but we feel that with a pool, it's a lot more manageable. While they're a lot smaller, you still get the same amount of programming, given the ability to manage and operate it. So just some numbers. The proposed pool holds 10% of the volume of the existing pond, and the proposed pool facility is about 24% of the total area of the pond itself. So it allows, ultimately what it allows is for that pond area to be used for other passive recreation activities, and allows the pool to be managed at a much higher level than the swimming pond itself, which affects operating costs. And then we looked at just year-round programming, what's available now, how it's operated now, in an effort to get additional use throughout the year. And as it was mentioned, moving the gate itself is a huge help. It allows more access to certain amenities, the athletic fields, the memorial, the trail systems. The pool itself would be able to be secured in the off-season while allowing access to the playground, as well as the picnic area, depending on the weather and the temperatures outside. The basketball courts, public seating areas, terrace seating, and the pump track. So you get a lot more amenities to be able to be used year-round versus with the gate shut in order to secure the swimming pond, as it is currently now. It does severely limit the ability for folks to access the park overall. And lastly, working just through Josh and the team, we looked at, how does this actually get implemented and phased out? It's a big nut to crack. And so we looked at basically a 10 to 12 year plan and how that might look over the next decade or so, with phase 2 being the pool area, and the most significant cost in about 4 to 6 years. That would include, design, permitting, construction, and all the things, infrastructure, all the things to go into that. And there are definitely contingencies built into these opinions of cost, and there is a detailed breakdown of each of these phases in the overall report. And then phase 3, years 7 through 9, would include the new trails, boardwalks, and wetland restoration. And phase 4 in years 10 and 12 would be the pump track, basketball court, and terrace seating areas. So, and with that, getting very close to the end. Josh, I don't know if you want to step back in or.
Yeah, so in the reports, you can find the QR codes there or just on our website directly. As Brandon mentioned, very detailed and backups on a lot of this is in the report. I think one thing you'll find, and it'll be a big discussion, the pool versus pond discussion. The reason you see 1A is in that report, both options were studied. So the amenities that are around, let's take the water area out of it. You're looking at the pump track and redoing the splash pad and the playground and whatnot. All of that stuff is the same. Brandon and his team, they did study looking at renovating and leaving the pond area essentially as just renovated, but as a natural spring. That's 1B. This is 1A. It went to the Rec Commission, and then Rob, I don't know if you want to speak to the two options, and because the Rec Commission ended up voting on which option to recommend, but I don't want to speak for you, Rob.
Well, the option that was presented for leaving it the way it is was a smaller version of the pond.
Correct.
It was going to be different no matter how we did it. But with the issues that we've had, because I've been on the Rec Commission for a million years, and we're studying Springsburg Park every year, and we have clarity issues, we have, lifeguard issues. I think everybody knows I've always been a huge fan of Springsburg Park, and I know you are too. And I never thought I would recommend a pool for Springsburg. But after looking at this, the cost to run it, what you can do with the whole property there, I think it's a really good option. And we voted on it, and everyone agreed that we thought that the pool was the option to go with. And cost-wise, it's not that much more expensive than leaving the pond the way it is now, only in a smaller version.
Yeah, it's under $100,000, I think, difference.
Yeah, I think it was very.
It's actually quite close when they projected it out.
Yeah.
It's in the report.
So, with that, that concludes our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Hannigan.
So, thank you, all three of you. I think this was a very thoughtful presentation and concept. I know it's something a lot of people are paying attention to, myself included, and certainly complicated. I do have some questions, though. So I know one of the issues with the swimming pool that I had heard a while back was that it was hard to create one because of that spring that ran underneath. And I noticed you shifted the swimming pool a little bit further away from the original pond. Are you confident there's not going to be issues in that location?
Yes, I mean, so we, to the best of our ability and to the amount that we've investigated, again, this is a feasibility study, but that's partially why you'll see in some of the graphics, there's accessible ramps. So it's actually, in regards to the subsurface water flow, it's actually raised up versus being sunken in. And then, once we were to get into design, and we built these types of pools in similar types of surface or soil conditions, so we know we can do it. That's all part of the costs that are estimated, and so we are confident. Yes, you could build it without impacting the stream below.
Okay, thanks. And if we could leave this up, because I have a couple more questions. So it looked like from the schematic around the pool, it seemed like more of a traditional surface. I didn't see any beachy sand like there is now. Is the beachy sand completely going away?
So it does have the zero entry. I mean, from a maintenance perspective, I would default to the folks that have to run it. We've done beach entries. They come with their challenges. But I mean, those are decisions that would be made at a later date. But the intent is to have, a walk-in entry, zero entry, no steps, no stairs, to mimic a beach now, whether or not that's actual sand versus a different material is.
In one of the slides, I don't know which one it was, it shows that we talked about that because that's one of the big features of Springsburg. And they put in a sandbox.
Right.
Okay.
So there is a place for them to go, but it's away from the pool because if you put it near the pool, it's
You're going
just
to track sand.
cause problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so on that slide again, with the pool facility being 24% of the surface area, is that going to reduce the capacity of the amount of people that can swim in it compared? Because I know the original pool wasn't completely used, and I know in some busy days during the summer, sometimes it would get up to capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'd say in terms of capacity, so currently, the park itself, the pond is open 12 to 5 or 12 to 7 on a given day. It's not open right now in the morning hours of 9 to 12 because the Summer Ventures comes down, they utilize it for the summer camp that we have. So the idea is, the surface area is obviously shrunken down and it is less room to swim. I think currently it has more than enough room to accommodate many swimmers currently, more. So I think the idea is whether it's traditional pool, laplings, or what you can program, you can utilize it a little bit more efficiently, especially with lap lanes and kind of a smaller children area versus more of an adult area. But then from an hour standpoint, we would be able to actually open and operate it more because it would take half the lifeguards to operate it. So our operation hours can be extended during the day, but also can be extended instead of 8 weeks, it could be 12 or 14 or 16 weeks. So extending the season, but also extending the hours. So the amount of availabilities actually would increase. So knowing that the surface area is less, we can program it, in theory, more. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's good because it does seem like a very short season now.
But I think one thing is, if there's a visibility issue too in the pond, we have to close it down so you lose a big chunk of the pond. So it's not always all open all the time.
Right. Right, that's a good point.
Yeah, we keep it closed for 2 days specifically, kind of after Sunday. So DPW does a great job maintaining it, but it's a couple days to get back to increasing clarity levels. Yes.
So how would membership work in this new model? Because I know now you greeted at the gate, and then the swimming pool and splash pad and everything are behind it. Now you're going to add these courts and the pump track and longer times of the year. How would that work?
Well, I think what we've discussed is the fact that you buy a membership for the pool. I don't know about the splash pad. We've gone back and forth on that. So I think that's probably going to be included with the pool because you have to keep it running. But we'd have to discuss that. But all the rest of the amenities would be welcome for people to use all year round. So we'll set it up so the pool is closed off so people can't get into it. But you would buy a membership just to the pool.
Okay. And then was there any thought about putting a bubble over the pool for year-round use?
We've certainly had the question asked. We have talked about that. I think, looking at all, this is very much in the kind of schematic planning phases. That's a common question. I don't think we haven't really talked about it as much. It's more about the amenities that are around it. I think we're trying to look at doing something that's potentially feasible and realistic, and then not trying to add too much onto it.
Yeah.
But could that be added at a later date? Possibly. But we haven't really fleshed it out
Yeah.
yet.
I don't know if we could. We have to see.
And if no bubble, maybe an ice rink?
Well, you wouldn't want to use the ice rink for the pool. Maybe you could do something with the pond. I don't know if you could.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't want to do it with the pool because you would probably, if you ran
You
into
wouldn't
it,
damage
Well,
place,
in
you
that
would
theory,
damage
because
it.
the pond is going to return back to a natural state, it's a natural spring.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
it would ice over in the winter.
Correct. That was the comment I made earlier regarding, returning the pond to more passive recreation. And then in the winter months, it could potentially be used for ice skating or whatnot.
How big is the pond when it's just in this natural state?
So the water
Varies.
drains, Department of Public Works does drain the water out, so
It's
but
safe.
if you left it as is, if you went down there right now, it would be 15 to 20% of the volume you see it in the summer.
Okay.
Basically. So most of that water drains out. And so it does naturalize, but it's certainly not nearly as large as it is in season.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's still
It's a
potentially a place to ice skate as big
It
as
definitely is.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
would have trails around it
Yep.
and all that, so you could walk around it and then it'd be easier to use if you wanted to use it in the winter.
Thank you.
Sparker.
Thank you for the report. It's very detailed, and I know a lot of work went into this. The question I have is just with regard to all of the additions to that area. I know this is going to be, or proposed to be, done in phases over a 10-year period, but there's a proposal to, I guess, add a pump track, basketball courts, additional parking lots, boardwalks, splash pads. Has there been any thought given to the maintenance costs that would be associated with all of these new facilities?
Yes, for sure, and we definitely have started those conversations, and we're happy to provide sort of additional guidelines as things come online. I don't always like to commit because things change over a 10-year period for sure. What we recommend is, as things come online, you make your adjustments based on how you end up actually operating it. Because based on availability of staff or the right staff, so on and so forth, it does change. But I'm sure Josh has been thinking about the budget and how to maintain these types of things. In regards to just general operation and equipment and all, chemicals and all the things, we also provide that information. But we typically, we know it's 5 to 6 lifeguards for the pool. We can easily calculate the chemical costs of operating and maintaining the pool. In regards to trail maintenance, we would look to Josh on how they're currently maintaining them. I know, obviously, the more trails you have, the more maintenance is required. So there is a give and take. We're happy to provide some guidelines, just based on our own experiences with other communities that have, these types of amenities, but it's definitely not one for one, so.
Do you believe there'll be a percentage increase, say 10% or 20% increase in maintenance once you get to year 10?
Yeah, I'd say it depends on what area you're talking about. So I think what your initial question was is we're adding, more amenities, right?
Correct.
The pump track and increase the splash pad area and whatnot. If you just focus on aquatics, if you look at pond versus pool, the operation costs will most likely decrease.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely costly to run it the way that we do it now, because of the many factors, right? The size, chlorine and whatnot. So operations on the aquatic side would go down. However, we are adding things to the park, but there already is a splash pad there that's quite dated. It's almost 20 years old. That would need to be redone. That can be done with the infrastructure here. So I think even that, the operations longer term of that would actually decrease because we have an older, with some water in there and whatnot. So, but to your overall point, we haven't looked at the longer term projections of what that could cost for the other amenities that are there. But it's something we certainly keep in mind if this gets pushed down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Questions or comment? As the committee reviewed it, what were the driving factors? Was it more important to save money, to solve for lifeguards, to expand recreation facilities? Is it all equal? Like, how did you weigh those factors when you made your recommendation?
Well, we did a lot of the focus group. Like originally, the pool was put in a different position, and neighbors were upset about that because they thought it was going to impede their view and trees were going to be knocked down. So we moved everything so that it would be better for, it would be to a place where it wouldn't affect knocking down so many trees, and we kind of keep that in mind. We took what people said in mind. If you look at the study, a lot of people wanted a pool over a pond. I think we just discussed safety factors. I hate to say this, I mean, we do look at cost, but that wasn't our driving force because Springsburg Park is never.
Well, we've heard a lot about cost tonight, not about. So I mean, it's all been about we're going to save, we're going to save, we're going to save. It's less expensive,
Yeah, I mean, Springsburg Park never has made money anyways, so it wasn't like we were like, oh, we're going to build a pool and make money. So we didn't look at it that way, like it was going to be profitable, but we looked at it as making it a destination of people can go there and do many things, and it would be very family oriented.
Sure.
So Robin, I think it's fair to say, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that the overall goal of the commission was how do you utilize the 56 acres more throughout the year in different ways for more areas of the public. Is that?
That's correct.
That was probably the main goal of the commission.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that's the case. Surprising to know, option one was the activated heart. And I love that title because to me, this is like the heart of Bedford, and you're ripping it out, and I know why. The first thing we did in Bedford was join Springsbrook. We've been there every summer, and I love it. And I understand all the things you're saying, and it breaks my heart that we have 10% of the swimming area, no beach, no pool, no chairs, no place to sit all day and watch the sunrise and sunset, exaggerating with your family, and we have a pool. And I get it, don't like it, right? Don't take it personally. Sure. And it's not up to us anyway, but I think beautiful job, great information gathering. As someone that loves Springsbrook, this takes Springsbrook's soul out of it completely. So that's just a plea for an old guy like me. And good luck with the presentation. The people will decide. I don't like it at all.
But I agree with you a little bit with that. But I think the basis of Springsburg Park is going to be more open to people using the trails.
Totally understand.
It's going to be a nice. I understand what you're saying about the pond versus the.
Yeah, you're building a pump track, and in 20 years, it's going to be in the woods, and it might not be used. The pool's in there for a long time. I'm exaggerating, right? But that is iconic Bedford, and it's now going to be gone. And that is sad, I think. So that's my comment with a singular question wrapped around it. So thank you. But no action will be taken this evening. This is just informational, right? So there we go. On that note, unless there's anything else, I think we'll move on because we're running behind.
Kind of in your court now, anyways. It's for the select board to review the information.
We will review, and you know how I feel about it. Thanks, guys, very much.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda, sorry, Aaron, is the CPA budget, fiscal year 27. And Amy, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Excuse me. It's cold.
I'm sorry, still no BOPA?
Yeah, well, we should double check.
Yep, just making sure we're not missing her to be promoted or anything.
Yep, not seeing.
All right, we will continue.
All right. So I'm really excited to present tonight's portfolio of programs putting forward to you for recommendation to annual town meeting. We have over 15 projects that came to our committee this year that we decided to put forward for approval. It's the largest portfolio that I've seen in the 5 years that I've been on the CPC. So it's really exciting. We have just over 2.1 million in recommended projects, which still leaves us a healthy balance of 2.6 million in the CPC fund. With our proposed FY27 budget, the 10% minimum requirement for open space, affordable housing, and historic preservation will be met. Our 15 projects are spread really nicely over the few categories that CPC covers. So I will jump right in to affordable housing. And it may be best if we just have all questions at the end. I'll run through all the topics. So for affordable housing, we have the Life Skills Management Program. This is an ask for $56,400 to continue the life management program run by the Health and Human Services Department. It offers financial literacy, tax services, various other career readiness programs, and this will allow it to support up to 35 members. It currently serves 15 last year. In the last 6 months, it covered 149 individual services. So the program really does have capacity. We've graduated some out, which is the plan. And that's the first ask. Second ask is for the Regional Housing Services Office, $45,000 to pay for the RHSO's affordable housing consultant. And the RHSO provides affordable housing services and administrative support for our affordable housing program in Bedford, which is about 51 homes, 5 larger rental properties. So this covers that administrative consultant. Lastly, in affordable housing is the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, MAHT. And this is a transfer request of $500,000. That will bring the total balance in that account up to around 1.5 million. This is to fund future affordable housing projects in Bedford, whether it's a purchase outright of a property like we did with Winterberry Way, or if we're buying down properties to make full price properties into the more affordable category. The preferred development would be the Carlisle Road development, which is on its way already. But we've purposely chosen to write it more vanilla and not define that as the development that this would fund, just so that it gives us more latitude to make any changes on the fly, or if anything new comes up faster, that we could take action on. In the category of historic preservation, we have, you've seen in years past, an archival records preservation request from Ashley Large, our town archivist. This one is in the amount of $29,700. Ashley's chosen to, you'll see some pictures up here on the right-hand side as well. She's chosen to update and restore some valuation lists from 1811 to 1859, and also 2 volumes of the annual reports for Bedford from 1876 to 1895. Dovetailing nicely into that, if we are going to be preserving our archives, we should make sure that the vault is temp controlled to make those investments last as long as possible. So this is to update, and actually in the basement of Town Hall, which I got the pleasure of walking through the other day, is the vault. And the vault holds a lot of varied archival items, and this is a request for $25,000 to properly temperature and to keep proper temp and humidity levels in that archive vault. The next one is for historic property interpretive signage. This is a request for $30,000. It will replace or restore 14 historic locations in town. Things like the old burying ground, the reservoir, Old Town Hall, Bedford Springs, An interpretive sign just is like what you'd see over on the edge of the Depot Trail that has a picture and explains what the historic location is all about. Lastly, the Bedford Free Public Library interior wall repairs and painting. This is a request for $75,000, and before you get sticker shock that painting can cost that much, we have some really talented painters on our facilities team that handle most of our interior painting in our buildings. You can see from these pictures, the room that we're talking about, or the section of the public library we're talking about, is the historic section. It's the one in the front of the building that has the stairs that were just replaced last year, coming up from the parking lot, or from the main entrance down on the side, or the side, what's known as the main entrance from the side. This front section has, it's about 2 stories tall. You can see that from the landing where the little sort of museum and landing is there. So we're going to be needing to bring in substantial, specific equipment to help get up to the very top of the walls. They're arched. They're 2, 2.5, sometimes 3 stories tall. More than what our team can handle on its own, so we will need to outsource this one to a specialty painting firm. The Fire Department Historic Artifacts Preservation. So up in the right corner, the idea with the new fire department, we're really excited about being able to have a lobby that displays some of our historical photos and signs from, very, like, you'll see the Shawshene engine, or the Shawshene fire station building sign there. The Bedford Fire Department sign that's in the archway over the current fire station is one of those. But we're really trying to make a lobby that is welcoming and a little bit like a museum, so that we can show off some of these really cool pictures that we have, some of these historic pictures down here. The Eagle, I believe is its name right here, on the...
Yeah. Going to the lobby?
Yeah.
Oh,
it is.
That's literally my question. Was
No longer on the stage.
We'll hover over the caucus every year.
Yep. And a number of photos will be preserved and reframed, all in matching, to really welcome our community members into a beautiful lobby that tells the story of Bedford's fire stations and the wonderful people who keep our town safe here. That is a $25,000 request to rehabilitate and restore historic signage and photos and other items. The next item is the Old Town Hall HVAC replacement, and this is going to be for design. You'll see next year a request for the build of the new HVAC system, but this is for a study and design to on the existing HVAC system to determine the proper replacement with equipment that will fulfill our town energy goals, will be right-sized for that building, and look at different technologies. That's a request for $136,500 for the study and design. The next piece is the Town Common rehabilitation. This is for the build. You may remember 2 years ago and last year, we successfully on the second try got a design fund approved for the Town Common rehabilitation. And this $830,000 ask is to refurbish the Town Common in advance of the 300th anniversary. It will improve circulation patterns. It will, in and around the Common, provide some new trees, seating, monuments. These current stamped concrete walkways, which is not safe and not ADA compliant, are going to be replaced with ADA compliant pavers, and our fence rails are going to be replaced as well. So no trees will be coming down in the adjustment of of the town common currently. This is everything in front of the church, not behind the church, but we are really excited to get this built in time to celebrate. In the category of open space and recreation, we have a request for $50,000 for athletic field fencing. This is primarily on Page, E Field, which is right behind the tot lot out here, and A Field, which is the high school field directly behind the high school, in between the middle school and the high school. This will be like first and third base on the baselines, the fencing. If there is any funds left over, we will look to other fields, but those are the three that are being prioritized this round. The Mattie Lord sculpture is the next one up, and that's the one that you can see in the top right corner. It is in the little traffic circle right out here in Town Hall and Town Center. Excuse me. The request is for $36,000 to restore and restore the sculpture itself, and with the base, we'd like to have it be more prominent. So you'll see a picture on the right that raises it up, so it's a little bit higher. You will see some picnic tables around, some metal benches, raised garden bed, and some side beds. We will continue as you can see, this ramp coming down in the top left corner. We'll continue its ADA compliant nature and access. We will be replacing the bricks with similar pavers to what's going to be in the town common. So we'll have a really nice connectivity there. And we'll just elevate this sculpture and little garden to just be refreshed and nice.
And the artist is aware that we're doing it, by the way.
Yes, with her approval. So the last thing here is the Springsbrook Park playing field redesign. You heard a little bit about this right before me, but this is going to remove the baseball field and soccer field that are there currently and replace it with 2 new soccer fields, parking that will be more robust in the same footprint. Parking has always been a challenge down there, so we're excited to have new parking.
You're gonna get those boulders out of the way?
Yes.
So my illegal spot's gone.
Yes. We will, level it so it's, got a little bit more accessibility, and we will be fitting in the sizes of, this is for the design, so we'll see what the designers come back with on the sizes of the soccer fields. Next on the list is the BHS tennis and basketball court lighting rehabilitation. So on the right, you can see this is a request for $155,000. These lights are over 30 years old. They are past their useful life, the system in general. And so it's to replace the outdoor lights and controls at the 5 tennis courts, the 2 basketball courts, and it will make it all really accessible on your on the apps. Nikki will be able to manage that from anywhere and put it on the same system as the other lighting controls in our fields. And then, excuse me, the Trails Committee, you see this request very common. It's $11,000. This will cover their annual rehabilitation of some bog bridges, signage, trails infrastructure, network connections. It's the annual maintenance. It's not the large scale trail work like the Davis Boardwalk, but this does keep, and you can see some before and after pictures. We have some real talented friends on that committee that do a lot of hard work out there making sure that our trails are passable and safe. So that's in $11,000 this year. Lastly, we have our annual administrative expense. This covers things like our dues into the CPA membership for lobbying, and it's reduced from our last year's request, which last year included a piece for permanent signage, which we're working on, and so the $15,000 covers this year's annual expenses. We have retired 2 of our bond payments this year, which was really exciting, and now we only have 3 remaining, ending in 27, 28, and 30. That bond payment this year is $421,290 for the Lilligren Field bond payment, Bedford Village, and Fawn Lake. And if anyone is curious what's in the out years, this is the 6-year plan. Some of these, really everything from 28 and beyond is placeholders. We know some things are going to come up, like the Old Town Hall HVAC replacement that we have on study this year. We're going to be seeing a request for the replacement of that unit next year. Similarly with the Springsbrook Park, we're in the design phase. We would expect to see a request for the build phase next year. But other things like the softball field improvements, baseball field improvements, those are just like earmarked for future things that we would expect to see. We'll see what comes up every single year and the actual dollar amounts there.
And one other thing to note, in the budget sheets, if you looked in your folders, there are some deficits in the out years that the committee members, we are not too concerned about because we always carry placeholders that are essentially double counting the 10% need for affordable housing, open space, and recreation. We always carry that 10% that we're already reducing our bottom line a little bit further, even though we're clearly carrying the projects needed in all of those categories. So although some of your bottom line spreadsheets projected out show a deficit as a group, I don't think anyone's concerned because we always see projects move out and we always get to remove those reductions as we move forward with the project's bottom line each year in the fall.
I welcome questions.
Shanigan.
And since I'm on the committee.
As a member of the committee, this is your 4th rodeo through.
Thank you both for their presentation.
Okay, Mr. Barker.
I don't have any questions.
Surprise. The Page fencing, expanded or new?
I think replaced.
It's not that old.
So for Page, one of the fences is going to be expanded out.
Yep.
Yes.
And I think that's the only intended portion of fencing for Page Field.
To protect the watchers.
Yep.
The spectators.
Right. You're going to level the whole Springsbrook surface and start over.
Yep.
Love that answer. And the last thing, could Trails spend more money if you gave them more money?
We actually encouraged them to come in for money this year.
Great.
This is
my
what they feel
favorite
is,
McFavorite committee in town. Give them as much as they want. If 11,000 is good, let them spend it.
This
If
is
they
what
want
they
15,
feel they
give them
can
15.
manage.
Great.
Previously, they asked for an appropriation every other year, and moving forward, DPW asked if it would be okay for them to come in annually, and told them for $11,000. I felt like that was a very reasonable request, so.
And I should know more about the statue. What's the significance and story behind the statue?
That is
Why is it worth saving? What's the story? What's the historical
The Maddie
significance?
Lord
Yes.
statue.
Who is that, you know? I've walked past it a million times
In terms of the
and never
actual
wondered.
visual of the statue, I would be more than happy to provide you all with a write-up. Eric Salerno worked with the Cultural District. I can't say that I necessarily know the inspiration behind what the artist kind of drew
Just
from,
love to
but
learn more about that statue.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure maybe even someone will ask it at town meeting, so I think that might be helpful.
Let's get that answer in just in case.
Town
Why
meeting.
is this statue worth saving
Yes.
$36,000? Give
Yes.
us the reason why.
That's right.
And then I will say, of course,
Noted.
because right now I'm like, I don't know, is it beautiful?
Right, certainly the pavers and even
Yep.
just the access to that garden, which
Would be
is
better,
nice, is
yeah.
lovely. And then, of course, why we want to repaint the statue.
So make the case for Maddie, if that's the person or the artist or the subject or whatever. Great, thanks so much.
Great, thank you.
No action will be taken this evening, correct?
No.
Correct.
Amazing. However, the same cannot be said for the next agenda item, Mr. Mnuchin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you for accommodating this late request. Basically,
Clerk,
this is
still the clerk.
this is a renewal of a vote of the board from late 2023. It's related to granting of an easement to the town at 1 Railroad Ave. Very briefly, Railroad Ave is the first project in the Depot Park Overlay District where we have 0 setbacks. And so we need to work closely with the developers in situations where things that might normally have been done on the property within the setback area now are done within the public right-of-way. And so this is part of that overall arrangement to do that. The board approved it in 2023. Since that time, a few things have changed. The property owner changed. The exact location of the easement has changed. And so town manager and I went back and forth. Ultimately, we felt like it's probably good to get it back in front of the board to refresh the vote. Matt, anything you want to add?
No, I'll just note, I think we may have one member recusing themselves here, and we have one more coming on. So if we complete the discussion here, we can just wait to take the actual vote. If you need to leave, we'll take the vote when BOPA hops on later.
Okay.
But other than that, I mean, your summary was perfect. This was voted on once. Because it changed a little bit, we wanted to bring it back. It's, unclear, probably whether we had to per se, but it's always good to just double check, cross all our T's and dot our I's.
Any questions, Mr. Hannigan?
Yeah, so do you know what the status of that project is, when they're going to start building?
Yes, so they are trying to get their building permit imminently.
Oh.
So they would like to start, I believe, this spring.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Click, click, Piper, click, click. I have no questions. Mr. Parker cannot discuss this. He's across the street, basically. So Ms. Malone comes on, we'll have a discussion about just to make sure we're doing this potentially the right way. So I have no questions.
All right.
To be continued.
Thank you.
David,
All right.
coming a little late tomorrow.
Next item on the agenda is the draft annual town meeting warrant, number 7.
Mr. Interim Chair, if you will, we only have one more participant waiting online. It's Brian DeVellis. If you had any questions regarding number 9 on there, I didn't know.
I'm happy to take that out of order. That's no problem. Let's jump to number 9, which is the final 82 Carlisle Road 40B project eligibility letter.
Yes, so I can give a quick introduction and you can promote him if the board has any questions, but this is sort of a formality at this point. The board, I think one of my first weeks here, approved an initial eligibility letter for this project. It's pretty well known in the community. By way of very quick recap, went to the ZBA. By a close vote, the project actually failed. Went to the state's Housing Appeals Committee. Through that process, there was a mediated agreement that shrunk the project size down from 120 units to 84 units. That was approved by the Housing Appeals Committee at the state, filed at the Registry of Deeds. The agency, and Brian, correct any if this is wrong, EOHLC that actually approves the subsidized units coming on the town's inventory would like a modified letter from the select board sort of accepting the modified project. So even though the board accepted and signed the mediated agreement from HAC, EOHLC is a different agency, so they wanted a refreshed letter based on the new altered project. Really, anytime a project alters, EOHLC wants a new letter, is my understanding. However that alteration happens, in this case, it was through the HAC process. So might want to give Brian just an opportunity if I misspoke at all before we open it up to questions, or if he wants to add anything.
No, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate that, Matt. No, this is, like Matt said, just a refresher of the approvals that was given a couple of years ago to make the approvals from the select board meet the mediation settlement that we negotiated last year.
Does it matter at all that there's different members of the select board now than before?
Typically wouldn't.
Yep. Mr. Parker, any questions?
I have no questions, so.
As a member of the mediation team, it was a successful process. I'm glad we're here, and I certainly support this if it comes to a vote. So if there's a motion on the floor.
I move that the select board submits a revised comment letter for the project at 82 Carlisle Road for the project as revised and the Housing Appeals Committee decision filed at the Registry of Deeds on September 24th, 2025.
Second.
Beautifully moved and seconded. Mr. Barker, I'm sorry, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? 3-0-0. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. DeBellis.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Good night.
All right, back to number 7, the warrant.
Great. I'll just know, and I made I noted my email to the board on Friday. A few of the numbers would be changed today. We have a few. So if you see 2 versions in your packet, one dated the 6th and one dated the 9th, I'll just pull up the 9th now and just quickly walk you through what changed. Some of the main changes were in the packet last Friday as well. I'm not going to go through the articles that we've already voted on or that we heard presentations on tonight. Just a few of the quick changes or highlights. Capital projects plan is in there now. Community preservation budget is in there now. Article 7, we have Matt Porter coming into your next meeting for a quick presentation. I believe he'll be our last one. We added Article 11, funding for collective bargaining agreements. We just started bargaining with the police patrol union. They and we would like, if possible, we're going to be meeting weekly over the next few weeks to settle their contract prior to the start of the next fiscal year, so they wouldn't have to get a retro if at all possible. So we can have a placeholder warrant article on the agenda, even if the final agreement is approved, the day before. We would just announce the amount that night. The amount is already reserved in the budget in the select board line item. As we do every year, we reserve the amount for negotiation. So we do just need a placeholder article there in case we finish up negotiations in time for it to be funded. Otherwise, it would just go to the November special. We could, keep negotiating over the summer, and they would get a small retro when it's ultimately settled. So it's just a placeholder article right now, and it will be a placeholder up until that contract gets ratified by the board and the union. It would be a pretty tight timeline to get it in by the end of March, but it's a very cooperative process, and keeping our fingers crossed.
Oh.
You have questions, Ernst?
Matt, I know you're going to catch this, but on Article 11, on the second sentence, there's a typo. Bedford is just spelled wrong.
Okay,
Just
before.
want to point that out.
The
Yeah,
before.
before.
Go, I won't change it in
Look
this
at this
copy.
guy.
I'll change it in the other copy. Oh, that's good, thank you. Bedford, okay. So that is Article 11. Article 14, the budget that was presented to the Select Board and FinCom for ambulance was just inserted. Supplemental accrued leave, we added the current balance today. It's about $150,000. In the past, it's been in the $200,000 to $250,000 range, but we had a couple, long-time folks retire over the course of the year, so that fund is down to $150,000. We're just proposing to add $50,000 back. So the amount hasn't changed, just we added the current amount balance. We also updated the balances for the revolving funds. Shawsheen Tech has been in for a few meetings now.
I meant to ask him, what did he mean when he's trying to get money from the schools? When he said that $61,000 and it was coming to us first, I forgot to ask him about it.
Yeah, I think that.
I don't think he's gonna get it from the schools. I'm just wondering if there's money that they expect to release to him, that's not our money or the town's money.
Yeah, the money either has to come from the sending district towns.
Yep.
Or if they had, turnbacks at the end of the year and they wanted to try to fund the study themselves, they could. Those are really the only two options.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just dreaming out loud.
No, that could have been there was a lot of discussion about the different votes that need to be taken, so there was probably just some crossed wires somewhere.
Sorry for jumping in. Yep.
Yeah. No. Yep, we have that 61 or 62,000 in here. And one more major addition is the addition of the zoning bylaw from the planning board. This is in draft form. They're going to be discussing it and making a final decision tomorrow night on whether they're going to put something forward. So we have the draft in here. It is a starter home overlay district. So you remember we discussed briefly at the last meeting with Attorney Pam Brown here, a client of hers on Elm Street requesting a citizen petition that had come in a little late. The planning board was considering it. My understanding is they've written their own version that is similar, but rather strictly through 40Y. It's a overlay district that could apply first to that parcel, but then also they feel potentially could apply to other parcels in town as well. So I haven't been briefed on this. I just got a first draft, I think middle end of last week, and the planning board's going to be discussing it, I think, for the first or second time tomorrow night publicly. So if they like this draft tomorrow night, they may come in for a presentation at your next meeting, really the last meeting, to add anything to the warrant or to get anything presented.
So would that mean the 40Y would go away in favor, because they were going to do local zoning, right?
Yeah, the title, I think 40Y probably needs to be amended there. It should be map amendment for starter home overlay district. The 40Y is
Okay.
actually just a typo. I kind of copied and pasted it, but yeah, that is correct. It's really two pieces what they would be proposing. One is the bylaw itself, and then the second is the first change to the map on where they would first place this overlay district, which is the same parcel that was discussed at your last meeting.
Yeah.
But this is just the planning board's version rather than the applicant's version. I'm really not in a position to explain or really answer questions on this tonight because I'm not briefed on it, but Tony Fields will be here at your next meeting if the planning board decides to push this forward tomorrow.
You think it's likely they will?
I don't have a full gut check.
Okay.
But
I think
they're
Tony
trying.
was on the attendee list.
Oh, yeah, do you want
I don't
to see?
know if
Maybe
he's
he
still
can
on
give
there.
us the up or down. Oh, he was on most of the night.
A lot of work's happening very quickly. That's makes me nervous sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, if I can speak freely, I think that's a very fair, assessment.
Somebody will say, why don't we wait until the next town meeting if you're just doing this really quickly, not giving a full discussion. But this is for next week, not for now. I apologize. For next time, yeah.
Yeah, no.
And I probably agree.
I think that's a very fair sentiment. I think that's actually it for changes. We'll have one or two more presentations, as I said. Matt Porter for the PEG budget, potentially this change. Oh, as well as when our chair is back next week, we're working on an updated PowerPoint and explanation of the charter articles. We've been through those a few times, really no changes there. We did have a conversation with the Board of Health that we discussed last time. We were still going to go one more conversation. They did make one recommendation, a small tweak to the language that they would like the board to discuss, but I want to wait till Paul is here to discuss that next week. It's a very
Is
small
that
change.
the approval on the appointing?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically just putting that back in.
Yeah.
Which, quite frankly, neither of us were opposed to, but again, without him here.
Yeah.
I'll wait for the discussion. But yeah, that was the only change that they were requesting.
Okay, and I thought this gentleman had a good point about the appointment of such department heads, just to make it clear that it's not every department head.
Yeah, I thought that was a totally reasonable edit as well, actually.
Okay.
So I don't think there'd be any problems from me or Paul or anyone on that.
But we're gonna discuss the language next week?
Mhm.
Okay.
So.
Again. For the 100th time.
Yeah, it's the article that
Oh,
never goes away.
and there's one caveat. It's the next item on your agenda, but it does relate to the warrant. It's the changes to the senior property tax work-off program. We did a little research last week between posting the agenda and this article. Normally, towns just accept the senior property tax work-off program, and by state statute, the select board can make changes to the program. When Bedford accepted this provision, I think 3 years ago, you specifically put the funding amount in the warrant article, which now means to change it, it can't just be the select board, it's you as well. So if you end up supporting the next item on the agenda, increasing the senior tax work-off program, I will then add that into the warrant for a final blessing from town meeting as well, and you'll see that on the next draft.
Okay.
But that really just leads into the next agenda item, unless there are further questions on the warrant at this time.
No.
Terrence? Good?
Yeah.
I'm good. So let's move on to number 8, changes to the senior property tax work-off program.
A very simple one, very low cost, but big impact for the people in the program and our town departments. The Board of Assessors and the COA, in a consultation with our office as well, are recommending an increase from $1,000 per year to $1,500 per year, which, as I understand, is the state maximum now. We're currently paying the state maximum rate, which is the minimum wage of $15 per hour, and we currently have 10 participants in the program. So we're recommending basically allowing the assessors to release an additional $5,000 per year out of the overlay so we can fully fund this program with additional hours for each of those participants.
Sean? Good?
Like it?
Terrence?
No question.
Great.
I'll throw that on the next warrant. That's it.
Do you need the motion?
Motion to place it on the warrant. I'll place it on the warrant by consent. So the motion is not I suppose you could take the motion now, but it won't go into effect until after the town meeting warrant.
Okay. I can make the motion.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I move that the select board increase the senior tax break program cap from $1,000 per person to $1,500 per year per applicant.
Second.
You said person, not year the first time, but I assume you have to say per year both times. Yes.
It's written per year per year.
No, you said $1,000 per person the first time.
Yeah, per year.
Just making sure we heard it correctly. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? 300. We are now on the consent article. Any questions or comments on the consent article, Mr. Hannigan?
It's all good for me.
Mr. Barker?
None.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second that.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? 300. Mr. Hanson?
Great. Just a few quick updates. They're important ones, so I will try to go through them briefly. Our contractor is going to begin this month on the Great Road improvement work. This is the work around Veterans Memorial Park, which is going to be an underground stormwater infiltration system. It will support the whole Elmbrook watershed there, a portion of the Elmbrook watershed, along with the fire station at 139, the Great Road, and it's expected to be completed by November of 2026. Work will be taking place from 7 to 5, Monday through Friday, and there will be some periods where one lane of alternating traffic, but we're going to extend it, restrict it to the extent possible 9 to 3. The fire station, if you've driven by recently, it's coming along great. The steel is, I believe, about 95% done. They're starting to tarp the building essentially so they can start doing some work on the inside. We're on track. They did lose a little bit of time, maybe a week because of the massive amount of snow. They had to spend almost a week just kind of clearing it, and it disrupted operations. But for a project of this size and this length, that's a kind of a blip. And as we said, very soon they're going to be working on the inside, so that'll become a little bit less of a problem. We do have some inclement weather, it looks like, over the next 10 days as well. Could cause some more interruptions, maybe 2 or 3 more snowy and icy days at the very least. But overall, we're happy with how the project is progressing. The committee will have a site walk potentially the end of this month, weather permitting. I can extend that invitation to the select board. May get pushed out to March depending on the weather, but it'll give all of us a chance to get on the site if you're interested. We can extend that. We have a few new medication drop boxes coming. There'll be one coming back to the police department. That's been a request from a number of residents. There was a certification, issue regarding having those. We have to have more policies now in order to have that back, but we're going to get new boxes, one at police and one at fire. We encourage people with prescriptions that they do not need to use those boxes. Ellis Paul.
I had a quick question about that. So
yes.
I believe the police one that we had before was outside and accessible 24/7, correct?
This one will be 24/7. I can't remember if it's going to be inside or outside of the vestibule or not.
Okay.
I think I was told, but I can't recall.
But you can go at any, because I know the
Yes.
fire department one's restricted now to. Right.
The police one will be 24/7.
Okay.
In short, the change just came that rather than picking it up and dropping it away, everything picked up from that needs to be logged according to accreditation standards, because basically controlled substances can't be taken away from the premises without a log. So it's kind of an accreditation requirement that these drop boxes have a policy in place for the company to do that on site rather than off site. But happy to bring it back. It was heavily used by the community.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great. Ellis Paul will be coming to the New Song Music Series February 21st. Get your tickets now if they're still available. I haven't checked recently, but tickets typically sell out and sell out fast. Tracy Graham and Jim Hemery will be here March 21st. Congratulations to a few work anniversaries. DeMarco Cabral, 5 years. Dan Leahy, 5 years. And Scott Gould, 20 years. That's Fire, IT, and the Code Enforcement Office.
Matt the Duck.
Yes, I love it.
What do you name it?
This is a new Facilities Department employee taking a break. Temporary employee.
They didn't give it like a fancy nickname?
Donald?
Danny, don't.
That would be funny.
Wait, for real though? Aaron, do better.
I wasn't there.
We'll blame Ron. Ron's boring.
We have to decide, I mean, is this going to be, you know, front or back of the next?
Was it like really cold and it was seeking refuge, or just
Yes.
wow?
Apparently, he's been at Northside. He's been in a garage on.
It's like the bear of 2016. Or whatever.
He's the traveling death.
Wow, Donald.
It looks like he's wearing a cool necklace.
It's a bling.
He's blinged up.
Curious though.
Yeah,
Curious.
he got right up close.
He was very personable.
Who took the picture?
Marcia.
Bang.
She thought he was like a pet because he was so tame.
Sorry, duck tangents.
We have a few featured jobs here. Social worker at the Council on Aging, head of technical services in the library, maintenance supervisor at the library, part-time plumbing inspector in code, and part-time reference librarian in the library. So if you know anyone interested in any of those positions, you can find the application online. And that's all I have for this evening, Mr. Chair.
Liaison reports, Mr. Hannigan.
So, Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee is actually having a bonus meeting this week because it was originally unplanned, but basically taking the initial feedback about visioning and coming up with a vision statement. And the big next time for public feedback will be around the middle of April. They're talking about a weekend in the middle of April. It may be like a Sunday and Saturday of 2 different weekends, somewhere around pole capping, with sessions in the read room for feedback and plans and how to execute some of the vision. And let's see, we heard from CPC and Housing Partnership I had last week as well. So they were talking some about what Aaron had mentioned with the affordable housing transfer and some potential projects for that, and also the possibility of a home rule petition to have a real estate transfer fee to go for affordable housing. So that type of petition may be coming to a town meeting near us. But not this
Very
year.
near to us.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Good.
Parker.
The liaison to the HDC, and I attended their last meeting on February 4th, the highlight of which was a letter had been submitted to the HDC indicating that the Prince Street Cafe at 36 North Road was now going to progress.
Whoa.
I'm trying to find out more.
That is a significant piece of news.
Yeah.
I thought they had given up.
I think
Haunted house.
Yeah, I think their license predates me. It's been about 2 years, so they were very encouraged. And then, as Matt said earlier, the Fire Station Building Committee is looking to have a on-site tour, weather permitting. That would be February 23rd. So that's it.
Great. All I had done is go to the Finance Committee meeting last Thursday to watch Mr. Hanson capably present our budget, and Mr. Mortensen, and it was great.
Yeah, very well.
Well done. That's my report. Seeing nothing else, it is that time for our final motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. We'll do that vote with Bopa
The recording
whenever
has
she gets
stopped.
Great. Excellent job.
Good job.